All right, broadcasting live once again from the apocalypse, coming to you from our secluded bunker on the west bank of the Halifax River. Welcome to the COVID Castle. I'm your pandemic professor, Scott Velasco, and we've got a fun one to talk about today. This is one that I've been meaning to get to. It's going to end up being a two-parter, and the topic is timbre.
Tell us about timbre.
Timbre, yeah, it's like the quality or character of a sound.
It's like how it sounds.
You know.
That's right.
Yeah. Now this video comes from an old class video that I made that was part of sound and hearing, but I've gone back in and I've really edited it down and tightened it up to focus on the part of timbre that we call sound envelope. So you're going to be learning a lot of this from a previous version of me. In fact, without further ado, previous version of me? The first thing that I want to talk about is sound envelope. Our sound envelope is made up of 4 parts, and these 4 things describe change in amplitude over time. These 4 terms are different moments in the duration of a note or of a sound. In order, they are attack, decay, sustain, release. Attack, decay, sustain, release. I'm going to expect you to be able to list those off just as smoothly and easily as I am right now. And in order to give you a really good, hopefully a thorough understanding of this, we're going to pop over to Pro Tools for a second. I have a virtual synthesizer here. This comes free with Pro Tools, and I bet at some point in your schooling, all of you are probably going to decide that Pro Tools is something you need in your world. So, what we are looking at here is the software instrument that is called Vacuum. And Vacuum is meant to emulate an old tube synthesizer. And it's got a few things that might look familiar to you. First of all, it has oscillators. Those are just signal generators. It's no different, or it's not a lot of difference between what I was using in our last video to demonstrate frequency in Pro Tools. These just happen to have a cooler, graphic user interface, and they have what look like old big Bakelite knobs, and that's super awesome. But then down here you'll see we have a series of knobs that are labeled A, D, S, R. Attack, decay, sustain, release, right? Now I've just opened this instrument up, and if I go to the factory default settings on this thing, and we play a note, it's probably going to be pretty loud and ugly and aggressive. Let's hear it. Oh yeah. It's all of those things, but I like it. Those are qualities that I thoroughly enjoy. All right, so let's start with attack. The attack knob, you see, is almost all the way, in fact it is, all the way to the left. And what that tells you is, as soon as I hit this key, we are at maximum amplitude. As loud as that note is going to get, we're there the moment I strike the key. So, if I change my attack, that's going to slow the rate at which we get to maximum amplitude. Let's hear it. A little bit slower. Ooh, you hear it kind of swell in there. Let's get really slow for a second. Yeah, you can hear it kind of swell up to that maximum amplitude. Let's go even slower. Come on, let's push the limits. Wow, now let's take it back to its original default. Okay. That's your attack. How long it takes to get to maximum amplitude from the moment you start making the sound. Attack is a big deal for us. If we get rid of attack, our brains get really confused as to what we're hearing. And you'd be surprised how many instruments can start to sound like one another if the attack is removed. Okay, the next thing that we're going to talk about is decay, which is basically how long after maximum amplitude, how much the amplitude goes down before the note sustains. So decay and sustain, they're really closely related. Right now, our sustain is it all the way up? Yeah, it sure is. Now, what if I move our decay all the way to the right and all the way to the left? You probably didn't hear a big difference there. I sure didn't. I know that. But I'm going to adjust my sustain. We're going to come up with, we're going to pull the sustain way back here. Okay. Now you notice the sound is a lot quieter. There's still a really loud, the actual attack, the moment I hit the key, is still really loud. But it's just for a moment. Now watch what happens as I change my decay now. Watch this. Now our attack is going to that maximum amplitude instantly, but now that takes a little bit of time to level down to our sustain. Let's go even further. Yeah, you see. So when the sustain was in a certain position, we didn't notice any difference with decay. But as soon as I pulled that sustain back instead of all the way up, now we can hear that difference in decay. Yeah. Okay, now let's make our sustain all the way to the left here, very short. And I let go. I can actually hold the key down and the note will eventually die out. Now if I make my sustain that short and my decay that short, if I make my sustain and my decay nearly instantaneous, then listen to this. That's it, you just hear attack. Now if I pull up my attack a little bit longer. Right? Now attack, decay, no sustain. And now attack, decay, sustain. And if my sustain is all the way up, I will continue to hear that note until I release the key. It won't stop until I release the key. Now release. Release right now is set all the way to the left at 0. If I add some release, watch what happens. I'm going to release the key. Ooh. Even after I let go of the key, we continue to hear the signal. Interesting, right? So there is your sound envelope, your attack, decay, sustain, release. Certain instruments have really predictable sound envelopes, others do not.
Okay, so hopefully that gave you some insight, gave you the understanding of sound envelope as it works, those 4 specific areas of amplitude in the duration of a sound. Why don't you make sure you tune in next time when we talk about Timbre Part 2, harmonics. That should complete the picture for you. Until then, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I'm your pandemic professor, Scott Velasco, fading out. It's time to bounce.